Why don't we destroy Kyiv? As the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky brazenly orchestrates a raid into Russia's Kursk region, the heart of Kyiv remains unscathed, untouched by the Russian military. Many are left questioning why the epicenter of Ukraine's leadership continues to stand tall amidst a relentless conflict. The answer, however, lies not just in military strategy but in the complex calculus of war, diplomacy, and global perception. On social media and in private conversations, a growing chorus of voices calls for a decisive strike on Kyiv. The logic seems straightforward: strike at the heart of the enemy to deter further aggression, to exact justice for the atrocities committed by the Kyiv regime, and to coerce regional Ukrainian elites into reconsidering their loyalty. But the reality is far more nuanced. The demand for a retaliatory strike, particularly on Kyiv's decision-making centers, is understandable. These are not residential targets but the nerve centers of Ukraine's military and civilian leadership: the General Staff, Ministry of Defense, and the President's office on Bankova. The arguments in favor of such a strike are compelling. The argument of justice. The Kyiv regime has repeatedly flouted the rules of war, targeting not just military objectives but civilians, nuclear power plants, and even Russian journalists. The Russian populace, still deeply connected to the concept of justice, sees these actions as deserving of a powerful response. To them, the destruction of these centers would serve as both retribution and a warning, an unequivocal message that such transgressions will not go unpunished. The argument of deterrence. A direct strike on Kyiv would send shockwaves through the Ukrainian leadership and beyond. Even if key figures like Zelensky are safely ensconced in bunkers far from the line of fire, the symbolic destruction of these institutions would demonstrate Russia's resolve to see this conflict through to victory. Such an act could deter not just the Ukrainian leadership but also other potential aggressors who might consider breaking the rules of war. It would shift the perception of power and determination, not just within Ukraine but across the globe. The argument of coercion. Then there's the matter of coercion, not of Zelensky and his inner circle, who are beyond negotiation, but of the regional Ukrainian elites. These leaders, particularly those in the east, have shown loyalty to Kyiv primarily because they perceive no imminent threat from Moscow. They believe they can flee to safety if the tide turns. However, if Russia were to demonstrate a willingness to eliminate decision-makers, these elites might reconsider their stance. The prospect of a swift Russian advance, aided by the cooperation of local elites, could save countless lives on both sides. Yet, despite these strong arguments, Moscow hesitates. Kyiv has seen its share of missile strikes, but these have targeted military installations, energy grids, and warehouses, not the presidential office, not the Rada, not the symbols of Ukraine's statehood. Critics argue that this restraint has emboldened Zelensky, making him more audacious in his actions. The recent incursion into Kursk, resulting in the abduction of civilians, is cited as evidence of his growing confidence in his perceived invulnerability. So, why does Bankova still stand? The answer lies in the strategic reasoning of those who oppose such a strike. Their arguments are not grounded in notions of revenge or coercion but in the broader, long-term costs and strategy of the war. The cost of collateral damage. While Russia possesses the military capability to obliterate these symbolic buildings, the human cost would be immense. The collateral casualties would likely include not just those within the targeted buildings but also innocent civilians in the surrounding residential areas. Such a strike would hand Kyiv a potent propaganda tool, transforming the incident into a global scandal, a bucha on steroids, which could severely damage Russia's standing, not just in the West, but also among nations of the global South, whose support Moscow cannot afford to lose. The strategic war of attrition. Moreover, such a dramatic escalation would force Moscow to abandon its current, carefully crafted strategy in the conflict. Russia is waging a war of attrition, systematically dismantling Ukraine's military capabilities and infrastructure while offering avenues for negotiation. This approach not only weakens the Kyiv regime over time but also shifts the blame for the ongoing conflict onto Zelensky and his Western backers. In the eyes of the global community and the populations of the liberated territories, it is crucial that the responsibility for the war's devastation lies with Kyiv, not Moscow. In this context, President Vladimir Putin appears to be pursuing a strategy that, while frustrating to some, is focused on securing a long-term victory rather than immediate gratification. The Russian people may desire revenge, but what they need and what Putin is determined to deliver is a victory that ensures lasting peace and stability in the region. The destruction of Kyiv's leadership might satisfy a thirst for justice, but it could come at the cost of a broader strategic victory. And in the high-stakes game of global conflict, that is a risk Putin seems unwilling to take.